This news, talk, and sports leader.
News Talk 1240.
I'm just getting sick of all this news, man. All this stuff about, the cops and how they're beating up people. I'm just getting sick of it. You keep hearing about it, and I'm not getting sick of the news as in, like, I'm tired of the coverage of it. No, I mean, the coverage obviously needs to happen, and I'm glad that it's there. What I am tired of, however, is that it keeps happening. And why does this keep happening? Why do we keep having this big old problem? We got a big old problem of cops beating up people. Now, is this a cultural trend that we have to, get over? Like, is this a cultural thing where, for some reason, in the culture of the police of the United States of America, we have a stigma where everyone needs to beat up everybody? Is he not complying with arrest? Well, you got to punch him in the head. Is his dog, barking when you walk in? You got to shoot it, man. It's the only way. You got to shoot the guy's dog. What's going on here? Well, police departments are, fortunately, it looks like anyway, trying a little bit to solve the problem. And their solution, it appears, is the usage of body cams. So now we're going to be seeing more body cams all over the place. Now, is this going to actually fix any problems? Well, we have heard some stories recently of policemen who have just turned off their body cams, because you can turn off your body cams. Obviously, you have to use the bathroom at some point, even while you're in uniform, believe it or not. So obviously, I can see where they would be able to turn off their body cams in that position, where I don't want me going to the bathroom being filmed, right? And there's other cases as well where you don't necessarily want everything ever to be filmed. So it makes sense to some degree. But the caveat is that, it seems that we're seeing cases of these body cams being turned off in very strange situations where a traffic stop occurs and then the body cam turns off and then it turns back on and there's somebody laying on the ground bleeding. Why does this keep happening? Why do we have this common occurrence now? Why does this keep happening? Is it maybe that there's more coverage now of these things? Or is it that the policemen nowadays are much more aggressive? Is it that they have very low IQs? What's going on? Well, there's not really any actual answer to that. We don't know. It could be a combination of all of those things. Well, unfortunately, at least, some departments, big and small, are gobbling up body cams. The San Francisco and Los Angeles police departments are now becoming the latest cities moving to dress their officers with body cams. The San Francisco mayor, Ed Lee, announced Thursday that he has included $6.6 million in the city's upcoming budget for as many as 1,800 body cameras. He summed up why departments across the nation are scrambling to purchase these devices, saying, San Francisco deserves the best in the 21st century policing, and technology that has a part to play in that, Lee said. In light of what is happening across the country, we need to do everything we can to build trust between law enforcement and the communities they serve. Now, there's a problem that comes along with that as well, which is that the taxpayers are now paying for this, where it seems like a lot of problems would be solved if there just were not any police. And I'm not saying that if there was no peace officers, I mean if there was no police department. There would still be sheriffs, but no police department, because the police department has a police chief who is appointed, you see, and sheriff's offices have a sheriff who is voted in. So at least the people have some semblance of a say in who their sheriff is, and they only have a say in who their police chief is by proxy. Now, I'm not saying that the police chief in our area in Chattanooga is doing a bad job. For what it's worth, it seems that he's actually doing a pretty good job. But is it really necessary is the question. Is he doing anything that the sheriff's office couldn't do? Now, obviously, sheriffs have become very indoctrinated to the idea of them working alongside the police. Most people nowadays, they assume that it's police. They don't even think of sheriff's deputies. They think, oh, it's the cops. Well, no, it's actually a sheriff's deputy. And they say, well, what's the difference anyway? Well, there actually is quite a big difference. A police officer goes through a certain amount of training and he's hired. It's a job. It's an occupation. A deputy could be anybody. You can deputize anyone. If you're a sheriff, you can deputize whoever you will. So let's say you're in a shootout and you're hunkered down next to somebody and he says, I have a concealed carry weapons permit. I can help you out. So the sheriff then deputizes you and says, okay, have at it. You see, that's a situation where deputizing would be very useful. And if there's a need for a impromptu militia of sorts, the sheriff would be able to deputize a group of people in order to enforce the law in a split second, and then de-deputize them, you might say, afterwards. So there is cause to have deputies, and there's not really much cause for there to be on-the-job police officers all the time. This is a problem that is with society as well as with the police departments at large. Because societally, if you bring up to your average person on the street, you know, what if we just got rid of police departments? They would freak out. They said, "You want anarchy, don't you?" Well, no. Anarchy is actually much more stable than what we have now. Anarchy is a system where there is no state. That you could bring it down to that level. There is no state in anarchy. Whereas with a state, there's oppression. There's always oppression when there's a state. That's always how it is. There's no way to get around that. Now, with anarchy, there can be an oppression in the form of one person oppressing another person and harming their rights, in which case there's a court case. Right? In which case there's a settling of differences of opinions. There's always a way to settle things without the help of a state. Now, I'm not advocating complete and total lack of authority on every level. Obviously, there would be a court system. Obviously, there would be a township. There would be people who would band together with social contracts, voluntary social contracts, not social contracts in the form that you keep hearing about nowadays, where you have to pay your taxes because when you were born, you signed a social contract. Not that kind of social contract. I mean social contract in the sense that I live next to somebody, and one day we're having dinner. I invite him over, and I say, "Hey, look, you know, I have some weapons in my house, and if I see somebody breaking into your house, I'll come and I'll help out. And if you're away for extended period of time, vacation, I'll mow your lawn for you. Don't worry about it, you know. And if I'm gone and the same thing happens, I'm sure you'll do the same for me." And we shake on it. That's a social contract, right? And that's binding. In fact, social contracts, in a sense, are actually binding in some jurisdictions by law. There is such a thing as a handshake contract. There's a verbal contract as well. These are forms of social contract. Now, these are 100% voluntary. However, you're not going to really find that when the state brings up the topic of a social contract. When you have women like Ms. Warren, Elizabeth Warren talks about the social contract where we have a duty to help our fellow man. Well, perhaps that's the case, but this is not a state-enforced matter. This is a matter for the charities, for the churches, for the communities, not for the state to enforce, which is where I take very big issue with a lot of social programs. Well, okay, let's bring a social program up. There's one now where the president is doing what many would consider a good thing, and I would say the ends are good, absolutely. The ends is, and ends are in this particular case, 10,000 free ebooks to low-income kids. Okay, cool, that's great. Hey, you know, low-income kids, they do need to read. Everybody should be reading books. Everybody needs to be reading books. How are you going to stay informed? Read books. Okay, so it's good that kids who might not necessarily be able to afford these ebooks can now get them for free. Okay, that's great. Except it's not for free. That's the problem. I'm not saying that giving 10,000 free ebooks to low-income kids is a bad thing. However, how that comes about isn't the best way possible. The Verge has a story. President Obama has unveiled a plan to give 10,000 free ebooks to low-income kids. So during an appearance at a library in one of Washington, D.C.'s poorest neighborhoods yesterday, the president unveiled a plan to provide ebooks, to the country's low-income children. The plan commits $250 million to give kids access to 10,000 digital books from all the major publishing houses, all through an e-reader app the New York Public Library is currently developing. The plan is aimed at improving educational development for children in inner cities and comes after the president made forceful comments about the plight of those living in poverty during the Baltimore riots. He says, if we think that we're just going to send the police to do the dirty work of containing the problems that arise there without, as a nation and as a society, saying, what can we do to change those communities, to help lift those communities, help lift up those communities and give those kids an opportunity, then we're not going to solve this problem, Obama said on Tuesday. Now, what he says is not flawed, but what he means kind of is. What do I mean by that? Well, he says we need to give all these kids, free ebooks. They need to have access to these free ebooks. They need to have access to education. They need to have access to higher learning and all these things. Okay, that's great. 100% on board. Good. Who's paying for it? Now, that might sound like a very selfish question. We should all be paying for it, obviously, because these are the people who are they are in our society. These people are, of course, within our society, and thus, as a society, it's our duty to pay for them, right? Well, possibly. You might say that it would be the godly thing to do to help these kids out. I would agree. You might say that it would be the charitable thing to do to help these kids out, and I would agree. But there's always going to be force. What do I mean by that? Well, when we're talking about a state, there's always going to be force behind every single aspect of it. There can't be a state without force. And force is something that many people, like myself, consider to be illegitimate, consider to be morally wrong when it's not, when it is instigated. Instigating force against another person is not right. Biblically, I find this to be so. And just in terms of the broader spectrum of things, which I believe it was covered biblically, but if you don't believe in that, then you can agree that it's wrong to initiate force against somebody, right? We can all agree on that. It's not good for me to walk up to somebody and punch him in the face because I say he owes me $10. That's not good. We can work things out another way. Now, force is not always invalid, but instigated force is. Okay, let's use an example. I'm not a hippie Buddhist, right? No offense to my Buddhist friends, of course. I'm not a hippie who's going to say that, if somebody breaks into my house, I just need to let him take what he's going to take. Well, no, of course I defend my property, and I will maybe choose to defend my property in a non-lethal way. I do have very limited training in doing that, joint locks and that sort of thing, but that doesn't always work out the way you want to, trust me. So I have a firearm, let's say. I have a handgun, and somebody has broken into my house. Now, that is an instigation of force. The breaking into my house is an instigation of force. Thus, I'm bringing it to its conclusion and trying to bring about as little damage as possible by ending it. Now, am I ending it by drawing a handgun and saying, okay, you need to get out of my house right now? Or if he comes at me with a baseball bat, obviously I shoot him, right? That's the logical conclusion. And most people would agree that that's not morally wrong for me to do. I'm protecting my house. I'm protecting myself. If I have a family, I'm protecting my family. Right? These are all right things. So that's a use of force which is acceptable and not wrong. The sin was on his part in breaking into my house. So the instigation of force is what's wrong. So we've come to that conclusion. We know that, okay? We know that instigation of force is wrong. So then, bringing that back, and you're just like, how in the world does that apply to giving ebooks to kids? Well, the thing is, these ebooks for kids, while this is a very good thing that kids are going to be getting ebooks, I would agree completely. Kids need to have access to books, to schooling, all these different, or education rather than schooling, all these different things. That's totally fine. But how does that come about? It comes about with force. It has to. The way the system is set up, it has to come about with force because this is paid with tax dollars, and tax dollars are gathered via force, you see. If I don't pay my taxes, what's going to happen? Right? Or if I stop filing, what's going to happen? Let's assume I filed my taxes already and then I stop and they come up to me and say, you owe a certain amount of money. Okay, no, I don't. I'll just say I don't. Okay, you do owe a certain amount of money. We're going to send police officers to come and get you. And then they drag me off to prison, which is an instigation of force against me because I'm not going to pay, you see. And that's how the system is propped up. It's propped up via force. It has to be. Every immoral system is propped up by force. It absolutely has to be. And that's what we have here. When we have our system of giving these kids free ebooks, now this is a good effort, and giving kids free ebooks is certainly a good thing. However, couldn't that be done by a charity? Couldn't that be done by a church? Couldn't that be done by a community? Now, it freely admits, yeah, these are poor kids who live in a poor community. However, surely there's somebody within Washington, D.C. who would step up to help these kids out. Now, you're going to say, well, somebody is. It's the state. The state is paying for their free ebooks. The state is paying for their education. The state is paying for their healthcare. The state is paying for a whole number of things. Who knows what the state pays for these days? There's, of course, there's food stamps. The state is feeding them. The state is their life. They need the state to survive. And the state, in order to gather all the funds to help them to survive, must gather that via force, which is, of course, morally wrong. It's an instigation of force. So you see, we can mask these instigations of force with some sort of a higher up servitude to your common man and try to justify it that way. But does that really make it right? Couldn't there be some other way to help these kids out? Now, I'm not going to say kids don't need to be helped out. I'm not a cruel person, believe it or not. I don't think that these kids should not have the proper education. I don't think that these kids should not learn how to read. I don't think that these kids should go hungry. I don't think that these kids should go without living a fulfilling life and have kids and be happy and retire when they're 65 and all this good stuff. Yeah, absolutely. These kids should have that. They should have access to that. Nobody's going to disagree with that, unless you're some sort of either awful racist or crazy Nazi white nationalist who thinks that everyone who's of a different color doesn't deserve to be happy or is of a lower human class than the rest of us or something like that. I don't believe that. So what's the alternative? Well, obviously there's charities, right? Probably some of these kids belong to a church. Why isn't their church helping them? That's a fault with their church. Why isn't their church helping these kids out? Do the people in their church not tithe? Right? I mean, surely they do. So what's this paying for? These kids to go to school, these kids to, I keep saying these kids, probably half of them are my age, these kids to get ebooks. What's going on? Their church is maybe paying for a new Escalade for their pastor, and I'm not passing judgment. I don't know if that's the case, but I know that does happen, is paying for their pastor to get a new Escalade instead of paying for 10,000 free ebooks for these kids, you see. That's the problem with society. The problem with society is that we're reliant on the state. We keep asking for the state for help. We keep asking for that. Where did that start even? I don't know. As society, we've progressed that way more and more. But it seems that technology can help us out. Technology can help us out in many, many different ways. One of which is, of course, let's say you go on Amazon, you buy an ebook, and there's an option there, like when you go to Walmart and they say you want to donate $1 for breast cancer research. You say, yeah, sure. Okay, when you buy an ebook on Amazon, there could be an option that says, do you want to donate a free to them ebook to a kid in a underprivileged, I guess would be the proper word, neighborhood? And you click, yeah, of course. So it's maybe an extra $3. And I'm sure a lot of people do that. Probably more than 10,000 people would do that. So then you have more than 10,000 free ebooks for these kids who need them. And then you have this without any sort of force being initiated. It's simply people out of their goodwill, out of their grace, offering ebooks to kids who need them. This is the better solution than initiation of force by the state. Now, I understand how there's going to be apologists for this idea. I understand how there are going to be people who are going to say that this is a good thing, that the state does need to initiate force because in the end, they're doing what's morally right. To which I would argue, well, how is throwing people in jail for something which is not a sin morally right? How is enforcing of rules and regulations which really make no sense morally right? How is it morally right? How is it the right thing to do to pull me over for going 5 miles per hour over the speed limit? Is that really justice? Is that doing the right thing? No, of course that's collection of money for the state coffer. We all know that. Everybody knows that. Everyone's going to admit that. But why are we continuing to go with that? Because people are complacent. People are very complacent. They want to just go, well, that's just how it is. It's better off this way. We're still the freest country in the world. Well, that might be. I don't know if that's the case, but that might be. But is it worth it at this point? You're wanting to sacrifice more and more of what makes us individual in order to become a collective for the common good. It seems like the common good could be better served by people who are just willing to be charitable than initiation of force. Now, there might be somebody out there who's going to say, well, you know what? People are just bad. People are just bad. And your common person is probably not going to want to donate money. I don't find that to be true. I'm a very average guy. I go to the store like everybody else. I put my shoes on. I put my pants on. I put my very cool shirt that I got at the mall. I like the shirt. I'm a normal guy. But when the option comes up, hey, you want to donate $1 for heart disease research, and I know it's for a good charity, I'll say, yeah, of course. What's $1 to me? I'm not a rich guy by any means. I'm not even a person of average income by any means. But when it comes to, are you going to donate $1? Yeah, of course. Salvation Army. Okay, yeah. Red Cross. Why not? You see, people are willing to give up that amount of money in order to be charitable without initiation of force because force is illegitimate. And that's what it comes right down to. And I keep seeing all these people all over the place who keep saying, well, this is the system we have. This is how it is. It's just going to be this way. And if you don't like it, then move somewhere else. Well, I actually kind of like it here. I like the Chattanooga area. I like Ringgold where I live. I like where I live. It's not that I don't want this place to exist anymore. It's not like I say, man, I hate Chattanooga so much. I just wish I could go somewhere else. No, I'm saying Chattanooga could be so much better if we lived by this standard. Chattanooga could be so much better if there was less intervention. Ringgold could be so much better if the city council wasn't stupid. You see, that's the problem. It's not the people who are living in Chattanooga and the people who are living in Ringgold walking around and going about their everyday business, because when it comes right down to it, people just want to be left alone. No, the problem is the state. The problem is governance of a wrong sort, which is not self-governance. If we were all left to self-governance and church governance, community governments, whatever, we would, or social contracts even, we would be much better off than we have governance by force, which is always going to come to a tyrannical conclusion, which I would argue it already has. We do have a surveillance state. We do have a police state. We do have all these different problems. So what are we going to do about it? Well, the system is going to collapse in on itself. That's inevitable. The financial systems are going to collapse in on themselves. That's inevitable. I can't tell you it's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen this year, next year. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it is going to happen. That's the logical conclusion. Every empire has to. The best thing we can do is invest in ourselves and local economy.
This is a mob mode. This is the mob mode. What kind of fool do you think I am? You think I know nothing about
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hi, this is your computer speaking. I don't feel so well. It's like I've come down with a bug, and I'm getting slower.
Affordable Computers. We fix sick computers. Your hometown guys at Affordable Computers will repair your PC in half the time of the big boys at an affordable price. No tricks, no gimmicks, no computer speak technobabble, just good, quick, and courteous affordable service and repairs. Want to affordably supercharge your PC? Affordable Computers on Highway 58. Affordable Computers hand builds all desktops in-house. If you're looking for a better-than-new refurb laptop, $150 will get you a Dell or another name brand at Affordable Computers. Affordable Computers, Highway 58, between Arby's and Taco Bell. Also Fort O, Battlefield Parkway, near Holcomb's. Affordable Computers, we service what we sell. Call 499-1975. That's 499-1975.
Wow, this is amazing. I'm feeling great. Supercharged.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You love your hometown. Are you interested in free markets, in local economy? Do you hope that Chattanooga can survive the next meltdown, the next chain of disasters in the national economy? What's the best way to live out the ideals of self-government and self-determination? Join me, David Toulis, weekdays 1 to 3.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Love your neighbor, buy local.
News Talk 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You love your hometown. Are you interested in free markets, in local economy? Do you hope that Chattanooga can survive the next meltdown, the next chain of disasters in the national economy? What's the best way to live out the ideals of self-government and self-determination? Join me, David Toulis, weekdays 1 to 3.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Love your neighbor, buy local.
Hot News Talk 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Can you believe it's been a whole decade? A whole decade of YouTube. Decade of videos of complete nonsense and some education and all sorts of cool stuff has been on YouTube for a long time. So YouTube is now celebrating a decade of cats, unicorns, and double rainbows and such, according to The Verge. YouTube is now 10 years old. That's half of my life, to put that in perspective. YouTube has been around for half of my life, which means as the years progress, YouTube is going to be around for more of my life than it hasn't been. Isn't that a weird thing to think about? I'm a young guy. I'm not old. I'm only, I don't even know how old I am. I'm not 20 yet, I'll put it that way. I turned 20 this year, actually. So I'm not even 2 decades old yet. So YouTube has been around for a majority of my life. That's a weird thing to think about, right? Well, YouTube is now celebrating its 10th birthday the only way that it knows how, with lots of YouTube videos. The video sharing site is selecting 26 of its best moments and spotlighting them throughout May alphabetically, a letter every day, on the YouTube Trends blog. So you can think of it as an end-of-season clip show for the internet's best-loved and longest-running sitcom. So when you're catching up with your friends online, you're now more likely to say, hey, did you see that crazy thing on YouTube? Than ask about what was on TV. Because chances are, and it's funny how we're having a shift that way too. Call it the shift show. For some reason, we're talking about societal shifts today. I'm noticing that a lot these days, where people will very often watch what's online over what's on TV. And probably the reason for that is because people don't want to be locked into a schedule, right? Like, I am so sick of the schedule thing, right? I mean, I work with the schedule every day, and I like the schedule that I work with every day. I like it a lot. But if something were to, say, mess up that schedule, I get really annoyed. Okay, I'll give you an example. Just today, I had to pick up my car from a repair shop, a really good repair shop. Maybe I'll bring them on sometime. Really, really good repair shop. And, I had to leave my house earlier than I wanted to, and I ended up being late at the office, later than I wanted to be. And just all this nonsense is going on. I hate being out of schedule. I want to do what I'm going to do. I want to do my schedule. I want to do things the way I'm going to do them. And if I can't do that, then my work suffers a lot. I don't think it is today, fortunately, because I managed to get a bunch of caffeinated drinks at Dollar General, so now I'm good to go. But it's just, it drives me nuts when my schedule is disrupted. And don't you just hate that, though, right? Like, you're doing what you're going to do, and then somebody brings up something just out of nowhere, and you're like, oh, hey, yeah, we're going to go such and such. Dude, I just wanted to hang out today. Oh, but so-and-so's going to be there. You have to go. Oh, dude. So then you're stuck with people you don't want to be with, stuck in a restaurant you can't afford. You're stuck buying drinks you don't want, and you're just stuck with this schedule that isn't the one you want. That's TV. That's TV to me, where you're just like, I don't want it now, really. I don't want to watch another episode of My 2-Ton Life. I don't want to watch another episode of the news. I just don't feel like it. All this nonsense goes on, man. I just don't feel like it. Maybe I'm lazy. I know I am. I'm really lazy. But I just want to do what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do. Pardon me. I just want to do what I'm going to do. And I think a lot of people are that way. Most people are that way. Most people just want to be left alone. Again, initiation of force by the state. People just want to be left alone. I don't want to be bothered by a cop. I don't want to be bothered because I went 5 miles per hour over the speed limit. Big deal. It's the same way with TV, though. YouTube is a revolution. YouTube is more than just video sharing. YouTube was a revolution. YouTube changed the internet. And I think now is a good time to point out how the internet has changed drastically just in the last 10 years. It's amazing to me that it's been 10 years. But how much has changed in the last 10 years? Okay, the year is 2005. I can't do what I'm doing right now, okay? The year is 2005. I can't do what I'm doing right now. I would have to have paper. The year is 2005. Some of the websites I visit regularly to gather news don't exist. The year is 2005. Chances are more people are listening to radio. That's good. But chances are also you can't communicate with a smartphone, which means you can't listen on the TuneIn app. The TuneIn app, of course, is how you can listen to us. It's a great way to listen to us. Get the TuneIn app and search for 1240 WSDT on the TuneIn app on your smartphone. You can listen to us streaming live to your smartphone. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com, and you can listen to us streaming live over the internet on your web browser. Just go to hotnewstalkradio.com. It's a great way to listen to us there. And on Twitter, which also didn't exist in 2005. On Twitter, you can search for Hot News Talk Radio, and you can see all of our live tweets and all of our cool stuff that we're posting on Twitter. Always very controversial, always very pithy. Don't always agree with everything. Not going to lie. Don't always agree with everything that's on the Twitter, but that's freedom of speech. And I like that. I like that I don't agree with everything. That's another problem. Let's get into that for half a second, too. I don't agree with everything that's on the air here. I don't. I'm very radical. I'm a very, very radical dude. I'm way out there, man. I'm just way radical, dude. And I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that's on here. I'm not going to lie. Now, when we're talking about Nuganomics, 100%. We're talking about Cowboy Up with Text. Most of the time, we're talking about Hannity, Laura Ingraham, the national guys. I think they have a loss of perspective. I think they're focusing on the wrong thing. But overall, they're good. I don't agree with everything. But why do I still work here if I don't agree with everything? Because I value freedom of speech. I'm happy these people could say the things that I don't agree with. I'd be happy if we had a communist talk show on here because, hey, he can say that. You want to be a communist? Okay, cool. You can do that. That's America, man. You can do what you want to do. That's your right to do that. if you want to believe in a political ideology that that is founded upon stamping on people's rights, that's your right to do that. So I'm 100% on board with that. Good for you. There should be more parties. There should be more political ideas out there. That's good. There should be more freedom of thought. Absolutely. Well, people are not realizing, I think, what has changed in the last 10 years, because it's really not been subtle. It's not been subtle at all, but it's worked its way into our everyday lives in such a way that we don't even notice half the time. Especially me, because I grew up in this era. So things evolving technologically was just me growing up, right? Like, this is just me coming of age. Like, getting a smartphone was me coming of age. You know, I turned, how old was I? I was like 17, I get a smartphone. That's just how it is. That's just coming of age. And so it's funny how technology is progressing that way. 2005, I was 10 years old. YouTube comes on the scene. And it was really cool. It was a lot of fun. You know, all my friends suddenly were sharing these YouTube videos. The year is what, 2006, 2007. All my friends are talking about YouTube. There's not one person who isn't on YouTube. People are starting up their own YouTube channels and having their own little shows on YouTube. And these evolve into multi-million-dollar industries, right? Multi-million-dollar shows. They're now on TV, on mainstream TV, which is actually kind of weird. They're now on cable TV. Look at, I hate to say it, look at Fred, right? Fred was an annoying kid with a squeaky voice, and obviously a voice, a modulated voice and all that sort of thing. But he ended up on Nickelodeon. How does that happen, right? So much has changed in the last 10 years. Look at Uber. We have Uber now. We have a service where I can, with a phone, right? It's weird. I can call up a taxi, and in a few minutes it can be right to, well, it's not a taxi. It's a ride-sharing service. I can call up a car to pick me up and drive me off somewhere in the Chattanooga area. I can do that right now with my smartphone. Where 10 years ago, you couldn't have done that. Now, you might have been able to call up, right? You could have the GPS locationing, whatever, but it's so much different now. Everything has changed. Now we're talking about autonomous cars. Autonomous cars in 2005, if you brought that up, people would have said you're crazy. Autonomous cars now, people are like, yeah, that could happen. It's just part of everyday life now, the idea that there's autonomous cars. Now we have private industry getting into space. We have SpaceX. We have Virgin Galactic. That was unheard of 10 years ago. 2005 was a long time ago. It's funny how long ago 2005 was. You know, it's weird to think of a year that I remember as being a long time ago. People are feeling old quickly, I'm noticing too, because a lot of things change much faster than they did. Think of 1975 to 1985. Lots of things changed. Oh, yeah. But it wasn't nearly as drastic, I don't think, as what we have now. Where computers, yeah, they've doubled, tripled, quadrupled in speed, but was it really that different from 75 to 85? Okay, 95 to 2005 was pretty dang different. So it's weird to think of how technology, as it gets better and better, let's think of 25 to 35, 1925 to 1935. Technology was pretty slow, and it really wasn't a huge difference from 1925 to 1935, other than, you know, the great economic crash and all that sort of thing. Technologically speaking, not a whole lot changed. So it's weird to think of how quickly we are changing now. We're sort of seeing an exponential climb in the usage of technology in everyday lives. I mean, advanced technology, where I can use a smartphone now to send a message to somebody, my friend in Canada, instantly. You know, just a few taps on my smartphone, and I can send a message to my friend in Canada with no extra charge. This is free, basically. Along with my regular plan, this is basically free to send messages to my friend in Canada. So many things have changed. It's amazing. And with technology comes, of course, progress, but it's not always good. But it's just amazing to me how things have changed so drastically. And YouTube really helped to kickstart a lot of different things. Now we have Netflix. Now we have Hulu Plus. Now we have Crackle. There's all these different streaming services, HBO Go. Now we have all these different streaming services that probably wouldn't have started without YouTube, to be quite honest. YouTube had put, trying to think of words. YouTube came out with a statement saying, YouTube is a portrait of our global culture seen through the lenses and perspectives of people around the world. It is a portrait built by a creative community of bold and fearless individuals, built by comedians, gamers, activists, artists, performers, teachers, and pranksters, built with cats and rainbows and blunders and ninjas and unicorns. It was built on the silly. It was built on the profound. And it was built by us. It was built by you, YouTube. We have shaped the internet. We have changed the world. Whether we like it or not, the world has changed pretty dramatically. But we changed it. We on the internet, we changed it. We changed the world. That's weird to think about. By all of us using YouTube, we changed the world. Because if nobody had got on YouTube and if it had flopped, nobody would think about it. Nobody would think about YouTube. Think about how different the world would be without video streaming services, without advanced internet technologies that we have today. It would be totally different. So thanks to us investing our time in YouTube, watching their ads, helping them grow, we have changed the world. It's a weird thing to think about, but we actually have. It's just bizarre. 300 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube every minute. 300 hours of video every minute are uploaded to YouTube. You can't watch 300 minutes of audio. You can't do that. 300 hours of video. How many days is it? How many years is it? It's just crazy. 300 hours of video. And of course, that's all the 10-hour videos that they have on there as a loop of a GIF and some funny music, Man, times have changed dramatically. Times have changed a lot in the last 10 years. Tesla is working on a $3,000 power wall that's going to let your house run entirely on solar energy. This is the future. Solar energy maybe is the future. Maybe there's some other form of energy that's going to be the future that they'll discover tomorrow. We don't know. But as it is right now, Tesla is really putting a lot of money into solar. So you almost certainly associate Tesla with cars, according to TechCrunch, very cool cars. But the company has an even grander vision beyond that. Today, CEO and founder Elon Musk unveiled Tesla Energy, a new business arm that's focused on ending our dependence on grid power and switching instead to solar energy. Of course, dependent on Tesla. The first Tesla Energy product is called Powerwall Home Battery. It's a stationary battery that can power a household without requiring the grid, which is what everyone refers to as this awful, menacing thing. The grid is going to come and get you and take money from your wallet because you use their services. That's the grid. The battery is rechargeable lithium ion, of course. It uses Tesla's existing battery tech and can be affixed to a wall, removing much of the existing complexity around using a local power source. So the issue with existing batteries is that they suck, said Musk in a press conference surrounding Tesla Energy. They are expensive, unreliable, and bad in every way. Tesla's solution, he says, is different. For one thing, the company's batteries cost $3,500 for 10 kilowatt hours and $3,000 for 7 kilowatt hours. So they are open for pre-orders in the US now. And the first orders will be dispatched in late summer, so they say. So having a battery attached to your wall to power your home along with solar panels. So how much is this going to cost overall? Well, they don't really say. That's the problem. Solar panels are very, very expensive right now, unfortunately. Solar panels also are not very practical for everybody because obviously if you live in an apartment, you really don't have any choice other than to be connected to the grid. You don't have any choice regarding that. You're stuck with the grid. That's it. So it's not like you always have a choice in the matter. It's unfortunate, but it's the case. Not every apartment building can attach solar panels to the top of the building and everybody be happy and, there's solar panels for everybody. It doesn't really work that way. You can supplement your power with solar panels, certainly, but it's not always going to be the best option, unfortunately. But Tesla's banking on that. So Elon Musk is putting a lot of money towards solar power. Is it going to be the way of the future? Is it going to flop? Is it going to be supplanted by something else? We don't know. We'll have to find out. I'm very excited to see what comes next. But solar panels are pretty cool technology. Maybe geothermal will come next. Maybe there's going to be some hydrogen batteries. Maybe there's going to be some safe fusion power. We don't know. We can't know at this point. It's the future. Comcast, in local news, we've made it to Ars Technica. We did it. Chattanooga is now in Ars Technica. Congratulations, everybody. Give yourselves a hand. We are now featured in a Ars Technica article. Comcast is bringing fiber to the city that it sued 7 years ago to stop their fiber rollout. So Comcast is offering 2 gigabits per second internet in our fair city of Chattanooga, where it lost its bid to squash the competition. In April 2008, Comcast sued the Chattanooga Electric Power Board, EPB, to prevent it from building a fiber network to serve residents who were getting slow speeds from the incumbent cable provider. Comcast claimed that EPB illegally subsidized the build-out with ratepayer funds, but it quickly lost in court, and EPB built its fiber network and began offering internet, TV, and phone service. After EPB launched in 2009, incumbents Comcast and AT&T finally started upgrading their services. EPB officials told Ars Technica when they were interviewed back in 2013. But it's not until this year that Comcast had an internet offering that can match or beat EPB's $70 gigabit service. Comcast announced its 2 gigabit per second fiber to the home service in April the 2nd, launching first in Atlanta, represent, and then cities in Florida and California, and now in our city of Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I'm actually kind of interested that Atlanta was the first city that that had it launched. I'm kind of interested in that. Atlanta is becoming a very forward city. I'm noticing Atlanta is becoming more and more hip and with it as time goes by. I just hope that they don't get extremely liberalized so that they pass a bunch of laws in Atlanta that affect the rest of us in the state of Georgia, because I have to live there. So, yeah. Comcast today announced that it will offer residential multi-gigabit broadband service for up to 200,000 customers in Chattanooga beginning in June, and expects to expand availability locally over the next several months, says Comcast. There's no word on Comcast pricing yet, but it could vary depending on the level of competition in each city. AT&T, just as an example, charges $70 a month for gigabit service in cities that have Google Fiber, as much as $40 more in cities which don't. So they're willing to take a loss to compete with Google. Or are they actually taking a loss, is a question that needs to be asked. Is it possible that gigabit service is actually not very expensive and that they're selling it at a highly inflated rate? We don't know. There's no way to know. Comcast has charged a whopping $399.95 a month for its existing 505 megabits per second service, but it says it will charge less for the 2 gigabit per service plan, which it intends to roll out to the 18 million homes nationwide by the end of the year. Comcast has little interest in upgrading its Chattanooga network when it faced no real competition, saying, "I think we would have welcomed the incumbents to come into town and to have done some of this work, but frankly, no one was interested in doing it." EPB Communications VP Dana Bailey told Ars Technica before Comcast announced its fiber intentions. At least one customer who remembers Comcast's attempt to squash the EPB project will not be switching. An Ars Technica reader says that he has EPB's gigabit service and he's totally happy with it. So go figure. Maybe he's a local guy. Maybe he's listening. If you are Ars Technica reader CDC LNDC, give us a call and tell us about your experience. That's CDC LNDC. So give us a call at 1-800, or not 1-800, pardon me, 800-8949. That's 423-800-8949. 423-800-8949. So it's kind of funny how now that there's competition, Comcast is changing rates. It's funny how that's working out. I'm noticing that too with Google Fiber. I wonder, though, if this would have happened had Google Fiber moved in instead of EPB launching their service. I'm kind of curious. Now, we're stuck with EPB, right? We use EPB. It's fine, whatever. But I'm noticing in cities which are getting Google Fiber quickly, like as in the next year or so, such as Atlanta, Nashville, Knoxville, these cities are getting competition from other businesses which are slicing rates down to really low rates, as in $70 for EPB's, or sorry, not EPB, pardon me, for Comcast gigabit service in areas which have Google Fiber. Isn't that kind of interesting? It seems Google Fiber is doing a pretty good job of lowering rates for everybody in different areas. So I wonder if Google could actually save the day when it comes to our pricing. Could Google actually save the day when it comes to ISP pricing? I don't know. We'll have to find out. As it is right now, we have EPB in Chattanooga, and they're a good ISP. I'm not going to complain about EPB. Yeah, it's funded with municipal dollars. I do take issue with that. That's a subject for a whole nother day. But as it is right now, the service itself, speaking strictly of the service, I really can't complain. It's been fine. So they have also been charging very, very low rates over there at EPB. So this has changed the face of the ISP market. Maybe EPB helped to do that. I don't know. But Google Fiber is really changing the face of ISPs as we think of them now. Because as it was in Atlanta, prices were crazy in Atlanta for internet service. I mean, crazy. Now Google Fiber is moving in, and Comcast is offering 2 gigabits per second for actually a pretty reasonable rate. So it seems that competition really does stifle growth, or not stifle, pardon me, really does encourage growth. Got all mixed up. Competition really does encourage growth. And if you have a competitor who's willing to take a loss to undercut you, then in order to move over more customers, then it's really apparent that prices are far too high. I wonder how much it actually costs to deliver this internet service to a lot of people. I'm starting to wonder, how much does it actually cost to deliver 1 gigabit service to customers in Chattanooga? Is it close to 70? Is it far less than 70? Is it way more? Are they willing to take a loss? We don't know. We'll have to find out sometime, maybe, if that ever gets disclosed. What is the actual operating cost of sending gigabit per second internet to a home? I wonder what that is. And of course, it varies from place to place, but Atlanta is a pretty well laid out city. So is Chattanooga. So I'm kind of curious. EPB is still faced with another complication after fending off Comcast's lawsuit in the form of a Tennessee state law, which would prevent it from expanding outside of its electrical service area, even though surrounding communities have requested the internet service. The law protects internet providers from competition, but EPB petitioned the FCC to preempt that state law, and they won the case in February. So the feds somehow managed to supersede the state. I don't know how they managed to do that. And so now we have this service instead of what we would have had with other alternatives in the area. So it's very strange. Of course, the overarching alternative, which is going to threaten all wired internet ever, is the idea of wireless internet being broadcast from satellites up in space, lower orbit satellites in space. So there's that issue as well, where Facebook is actually looking, or rather Mark Zuckerberg is looking to launch a internet service that broadcasts internet to people via drone. Google's also been looking at these options. So this might be changing ISPs even more than having competition from Comcast and EPB will. So the internet is constantly evolving, constantly expanding, and it's constantly changing how we live our everyday lives. This station right here would not be possible without the internet. We need the internet. Every person who's alive probably in the next 10 years is really going to need the internet in some way or another. I need the internet to get the news. I need the internet to gather news stories. I need the internet to check up on my friends. We need the internet. It's strange how that works out now. We actually are somewhat reliant on the internet. We're also somewhat reliant on the internet remaining cost effective. We need the internet to stay low in price. Otherwise, nobody can afford it. Who's going to be able to get it, you see? So maybe prices are going to continue to go down as time goes by. I think they will. So I'm very excited to see what the future has in store for us for the internet and for the future of ISPs. This is Digital Drive. I'm your host, Russell. The show, we talk about quite a bit of technology and a whole lot more, such as initiation of force by the state being illegitimate. Don't know how we got into that one. Nuganomics.com with David Toulis is coming up in just a few seconds right here on Hot News Talk Radio. That's AM 1240. Tune in on the TuneIn app and search for 1240 WSDT, and you'll be able to listen to us streaming live via that app on 1240 WSDT on your smartphone. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com and you can listen to us streaming live on the internet.
This is the mob mode. This is the mob mode. What kind of fool do you think I am? You think I know nothing of my...
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You do not have to be living with constant pain. You need to make the choice today to enjoy a revitalized body. You deserve to live a better pain-free life. And Dr. Ross can help. At Ross Chiropractic, failure is not an option. For over 40 years, Dr. Ross, a graduate of the prestigious Palmer College of Chiropractic, prided himself in helping and healing. The Ross method of chiropractic care is unique in developing a treatment designed just for you. And Ross Chiropractic makes this promise to you. If he believes that he can't help relieve your pain, he will guide you to another health practitioner to assist you. Feel better now. You owe it to yourself. You really do. Call Dr. Ross now at 954-9591. That's 954-9591. And visit Dr. Ross at 7405 Shaliford Road, Suite 320. Ross Chiropractic, helping your body heal itself. Because when your spine's in line, you will feel fine. Call 954-9591. That's 954-9591 for Ross Chiropractic.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Every Tuesday at 11 a.m. on Hot News Talk Radio, join Real Estate U for an hour of information, guests, and new ideas about the dynamic Chattanooga real estate investment market. Real Estate U every Tuesday at 11 a.m. here on Hot News Talk Radio.
If you have the DTs, the shakes, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia. You need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out? Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza. Check us out on Facebook. Open Sunday. Cell Surgeon. We bring your phone back to life.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
Pure, honest, fair, and respect. Just some words that come to mind when you think about how you want to be treated. And that's how you're treated at Rivermont Pure. Rivermont Pure in Rivermont, Chattanooga. Serving your vehicle needs for over 30 years.
Now that's a long time.
Owner-operators Charlie and Tommy always put your needs first. Yeah, go ahead. Get an estimate from one of those big guy impersonal car repair chains.
No way!
Then bring it to Tommy and Charlie at Rivermont Pure. Chances are they'll beat their price and get your vehicle back on the road faster than you can say,
our customers come first. Hi, this is Charlie.
And I'm Tommy, owners of Rivermont Pure. We're here to serve you.
Rivermont Pure, the auto repair guys. Featuring ethanol-free fuel. Located across from Rivermont Elementary on Hickson Pike. Rivermont, Chattanooga. Rivermont Pure.
Rivermont Pure, that's where I've always gone to get my car serviced. My husband and I trust Charlie and Tommy. They always treat us right and give us a fair price. And they get the job done right the first time. Thank you, Rivermont Pure.
Call 485-3375. That's 485-3375.
NASCAR, Laura Ingram, Dennis Miller, David Toulis, Generation Z, Coast to Coast AM, and CBS Radio News. Chattanooga's news, talk, and sports leader.
Hot News Talk 1240.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of the southern states. The day Elvis passed away would be our national holiday. If the South would have won, we'd have had it made.
NASCAR, Laura Ingram, Dennis Miller, David Toulis, Coast to Coast AM, and CBS Radio News. Chattanooga's news, talk, and sports leader.
Hot News Talk 1240.
They say you can always tell a Texan, you just can't tell them much. But you can try. Cowboy Up with Texas on Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 Eastern, and he comments on the day's events. So, agree or disagree, call in and tell a Texan.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Sunny Daisy, Chattanooga.
CBS News. I'm Steve Kathan. The 6 Baltimore police officers suspended in the Freddie Gray death now face criminal charges from second-degree murder for the driver of the police van where Gray suffered fatal injuries to manslaughter and assault for others.
Following transport from Baker Street, Mr. Gray suffered a severe and critical neck injury as a result of being handcuffed, shackled by his feet, and unrestrained inside of the BPD wagon.
CBS's Steve Dorsey's in Baltimore.
Baltimore State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby called for peace as she announced the charges of the 6 suspended officers involved in Freddie Gray's death. Protesters erupted in cheers at the press conference. Now police and National Guardsmen have been scrambling to secure streets before more demonstrations.
The city's police union says the officers are not responsible for Gray's death. There's been reaction to this from President Obama.
The president said the people of Baltimore want the truth about the death of Freddie Gray, and it's vital that it comes out.
Justice needs to be served. All the evidence needs to be presented. Those individuals who are charged obviously are also entitled to due process.
Commenting shortly after charges were announced against 6 police officers, the president said the Justice Department's in contact with Baltimore officials to offer assistance in the investigation. Pam Coulter, CBS News, the White House.
A former political ally of New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, David Wildstein, has pleaded guilty to charges in the George Washington Bridge scandal. 2 others have been indicted. Lanes to the bridge were closed for a time in 2013 for political payback. Christie, a possible GOP presidential candidate, maintained he knew nothing about the closures ahead of time. Wildstein's attorney, Alan Zaga.
Mr. Wildstein is still being asked questions by the government, and if need be, is prepared to testify at trial.
At the Watergate scene of the Washington political break-in that was the beginning of the end for Richard Nixon, a collapse in the 4-story parking garage there left 1 person injured. CBS's Nancy Cordes watched some construction workers get helped out.
The Watergate complex is enormous. It takes up several city blocks, and it's comprised of condos, office space, and the Watergate Hotel. And the reason that so many construction workers were here is because they're renovating that hotel. It's supposed to reopen in the fall.
Transportation Secretary Fox says new standards for rail freight cars that carry flammable liquids include stronger frames, slower speeds, and better brakes.
They can prevent cars from slamming into each other. They can decrease the number of cars that derail. They can greatly reduce the probability that tank cars will puncture.
The rules go into effect in October.
So darling,
Stand By Me singer Ben E. King has died. He was 76 years old. Wall Street, the Dow is up 128 points. This is CBS News.
I'm Jay Farner with some great news on how you could save an average of $3,000 per year on your mortgage. Call Quicken Loans now at 800-QUICKEN to see if you qualify for the government's Home Affordable Refinance Program, or HARP. The HARP guidelines have changed. There's less paperwork and often no appraisal required. Call 800-QUICKEN. That's 800-QUICKEN, or visit QuickenLoans.com.
Important terms and conditions apply. Calls for cost information. Equal housing lender. Licensed law 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
You're wearing top-of-the-line boots to hike the scenic Rockies, but you're still wearing your indoor eyeglasses in the glare of the sun?
What's that, Mom? What? Where?
Next time, experience Experio UV, superior polarized sun lenses, and experience the difference.
Look, Katie, an eagle.
They eliminate 100% of blinding reflective glare and offer ESPF 50+, the maximum UV protection available. Ask your eye care professional about Experio UV, superior polarized sun lenses in your prescription for the best vision under the sun.
The earthquake in Nepal has opened the charity floodgates in a country not known for giving. Reporter Shannon Van Sant.
China has long ranked as one of the world's least charitable countries, but Chinese citizens have donated millions in aid to victims of the Nepal earthquake over the last few days. As of yesterday, 250,000 people had donated more than $3 million to relief efforts using an online payment system. The Chinese government has sent goods and supplies and dozens of search and rescue experts as it competes with India to come to Nepal's aid. Shannon Van Sant, CBS News, Hong Kong.
A man who Texas prosecutors say